welcome to Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. This is our flagship series on the Chief Justice of India, where we are now talking of Justice Bhushan Gavai as the Chief Justice of India. The title is Justice Bhushan Gavai as CJI, Opportunities and Suggestions. And I have a very eminent panel who joins me today. I have Justice Rishikesh Roy, who joins me. He's a leading arbitrator, or we all know so, has served as a judge of the Supreme Court of India and also part of the all-important Collegium of the Supreme Court. Good to see you and looking forward to some interesting insights from you. As always, we have with us Senior Advocate Sanjay Jain, who practices at the Supreme Court of India, the Delhi High Court, is also an arbitrator. He served as the Additional Solicitor General of India for a tenure of almost 10 long years. Good to see you again and looking forward to your insights. We have with us Advocate Sri Venkatesh, who practices a lot in the power sector, also at the Supreme Court of India and Delhi High Court. He joins us on the show for the first time, but of course not the last time. Welcome, Advocate Sri Venkatesh, and looking forward to your insights on this subject as well. At the outset, let me request Justice Rishikesh Roy to make an opening comment on Justice Bhushan Gavai, and then we'll go on to the other panelists. Over to you, Justice Roy.
Thank you, Tarun. I know it's a very significant program that you're organizing on the eve of the oath of the 52nd Chief Justice of India in the shape of Justice Bhushan Gavai. Now, Justice Bhushan Gavai, as we all know, come with over 2 decades of experience in the bench as a judge of the Bombay High Court, and then now for last 6 years as a judge of the Supreme Court. And he comes at a juncture when we are having certain issues which seem to be looming over the judicial horizon. Now, these are well-known issues, but then who am I to suggest to the incoming Chief Justice on what his path should be in course of the next about 6 months or so? Justice Bhushan has been a judge, a very responsible judge. I particularly marked the way he led a team of Supreme Court judges to the strife-torn Manipur, state of Manipur, to bring about a certain amount of, to restore confidence amongst the people who were at loggerheads with each other. He met the Meiteis, he met the Kukis. Now, this itself exemplifies the leadership qualities of Justice Bhushan Gavai, and I hope, no doubt, that he will know what to do. But important aspect of the Chief Justice of India is that he also is a role model for all the other judges of the country. So Justice Bhushan Gavai, I'm sure, with his vast experience and in the way he conducts himself, will prove himself to be a worthy role model. I'm sure he will be able to restore a bit of the confidence that one might say has been dented so far as the judiciary is concerned. Requisite steps have already been initiated by the current Chief Justice, Justice Sanjeev Khanna. We are, of course, talking about the cash discovery in the residence of one of the judges. We are also looking at certain statements or conducts by 1 or 2 stray elements in judiciary who have made comments and who have been, processes have been initiated to find out and to seek explanation. So these are things which are already, let us say, work in progress. Now, Justice Bhushan Gavai will, as the incoming Chief Justice, will have to perhaps take these things forward. And one very important thing which I would like to emphasize here is each of the incoming Chief Justices, now we have until Justice Jaimalla Bakshi, a sitting judge of the Supreme Court, who, if we go by what the retirement age of each of the judges are concerned, Justice Jaimalla Bakshi, he comes in precisely in the month of May of 2031 as the Chief Justice. And each of the judges have tenure starting from a couple of months to the longest one, I think, of perhaps Justice J.B. Pardiwala, who has a tenure starting in August 2030 for a little longer than 2 years, practically matching the tenure of the former Chief Justice of India, Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. So when as many as 8 Chief Justices we are seeing in the next, let us say, 6 years or so, obviously having a continuity in the decision-making process for the betterment of institution is paramount. I don't think any of the Chief Justices should think that I have to, do something, but he must take on board the incoming Chief Justices as well in whatever decision that he is going to take, so that usually in judiciary, you can't see result of a particular decision in a very short time. It takes months, it may take years also. So if the incoming Chief Justice, Justice Gavai, takes on board the future Chief Justices of India, I'm sure he will be starting off on a very positive note, is my feeling.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that opening comment on Justice Bhushan Gavai. I'll go to senior advocate Sanjay Jain. You also would have had a lot of opportunities to appear before him. So if you could include that in your comments as well. Over to you, Mr. Jain.
See, what I found about Justice Gavai is a very interesting combination. He blends passion with compassion. He's relaxed and jovial at the bench all the time, but still he is very firm. He is absolutely a no-nonsense judge. He is pragmatic, dynamic, yet rooted in traditions of India. Sense of gratitude and his love for peace has never deserted him, whether it is his spiritual base or his family traditions or inheritance of sanskaras. So if you see him as a person sitting on the bench, you are always very relaxed. And one of the most noticeable quality about him is that he is not bothered about the reputations. He goes by the merits of the file, and he encourages juniors quite a bit. I would say that is a quality which I found in our co-panelist, Honorable Justice Rishikesh Roy also. He would always be very encouraging to the juniors. So that is something which always opens a positive positive environment in the court, because the junior bar always feels that they don't have to be dependent upon a senior all the time. It is not that he is against seniors, but he's not encouraging any senior-centric practice in his court, and he encourages merits. So therefore, there is a lot of expectation from the younger bar, including the AORs of the Supreme Court, that he would bring a lot of reforms which have already been initiated. As His Lordship Justice Roy said, that our preceding Chief Justices also have in their respective tenures tried to infuse some new air, some new ideas. But according to me, what is most important at this point in time is that we find that a large number of matters with interim orders do not get surfaced for hearing despite being listed. And this is something which is to a great detriment to the litigants who are aggrieved by these interim orders and thereafter the matters not getting listed. So I am sure that His Lordship, after assuming the office of Chief Justice, would certainly find a solution to this problem, that these kind of matters, despite being listed, are not heard. They would be heard. And one of the reasons why they don't perhaps surface for hearing is this, that despite the roster being there and despite a list being there, in some of the benches, there is sequencing. So I would suggest, I mean, as a suggestion, because your topic today is that suggestion, that who am I to give suggestion? I will borrow His Lordship's expression, Justice Roy's expression. But as a consumer of justice and as a stakeholder in the Honorable Supreme Court, I would suggest that he finds some solution to this, that these interim interim orders matters, in which interim orders have been passed, but they do not surface for hearing, despite being listing, this problem is resolved, and the sequencing carved out by the individual benches does not impede the hearing of these matters. That is what my suggestion would be.
Thank you for the opening comment and a very significant suggestion that you have given for Justice Bhushan Gavai. I'll go to Advocate Sri Venkatesh for his opening comment. Over to you, Venkatesh.
Thank you, Tarun, for inviting me and being part of this esteemed panel that we are discussing. Justice Gavai is to be taking over the Chief Justice of India in the next couple of days. I think for me, I'm the least qualified person to even comment upon a career judge who has reached the highest pinnacle of what a judiciary can offer. But having said that, my own personal interaction with Justice Gavai, at least in appearing in his courtroom, has been that he's a man who has the judicial clarity coupled with personal humility. I mean, just to cite a few examples, that while he is quite decisive in the way he looks at a matter and if he reads in come the view that he has taken, at the same time, he also has the humility to let the arguing counsel at least make out his point, which if it means well with him, then he would turn the view that he's taken against the party. And that is something which I saw in him. And this was also this particular quality of Justice Gavai was also pretty much visible with the younger bar. And he was quite open to the younger bar to make their arguments, and so that he is able to convince himself and not getting convinced by reading the brief before the matter is taken up for a hearing. So I think that was something which I saw in his courtroom very often, and which was something very endearing for a younger member of the bar who's aspiring to practice on a regular basis before the Honorable Supreme Court. That is something that I found to be quite touching as an attribute of Justice Gavai. Having said that, over the years, his decision making is quite decisive, and he believes in writing judgments which are very to the point, which is also very useful, when you're citing a particular law in a different case, which is something which I found quite unique in his style of writing in the judgments that he has delivered on very key issues. At least on the sector that I represent, he's written some very important judgments on the role of high courts in terms of interfering in specialized tribunals and their functioning. And those judgments are very, very well written. And according to me, they lay down the law once and for all in a very crisp manner. So I think this has been my interaction with Justice Gavai. And of course, we all wish him, I'm sure, all the best for his tenure before the Honorable Supreme Court as the Chief Justice.
Thanks for your opening comment, Advocate Sri Venkatesh. I'll go to now this round, which we call suggestions, where of course each of the panelists will make one or two suggestions about what Justice Gavai can do in the limited tenure that he has. Of course, still 4-5 months, a lot can be achieved. I'll go to Justice Roy for giving his bit of suggestions to Justice Bhushan Gavai.
Okay, I think one important step the incoming Chief Justice of India can immediately take, I feel, is to have a conference where he will be addressing all the Chief Justices of the High Court. Basically, I'm looking at the huge vacancy position that we are all aware of in the High Courts. Justice Gavai can indicate to the respective Chief Justices of the High Courts that you are to make recommendations to fill up the vacancies, not only which are existing, but which are anticipated in the next 6 months. as is permissible under the current norms that we have. So immediately, the concerned chief justices in the different high courts get activated, because very often they feel that I've sent the recommendations and the vacancies are here. Those have not been acted upon. What to do with the remaining vacancies or the anticipated vacancies? So if the message come from the top, that is the Chief Justice of India, I'm sure they will feel encouraged to make the recommendation. Now that is one thing. Another aspect which I would like to highlight is that when we talk about a judge who is described as a simple, who has humility, we tend to forget the huge legal scholarship that Justice Bhushan Gavai brings to the bench. Now, he is obviously rightly described by Mr. Jain as a no-nonsense judge, but we must not forget that he is a legal scholar. He has delivered key judgments. Particularly, we can immediately identify the demonetization case, the judgment of which Justice Gavai had the leading, his pen wrote the judgment. Then he also spoke about the creamy layer subclassification in the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe category. Now, these are pointers to how his mind works when confronted with a legal issue, and legal issues which permeates social context in a vast and divergent country like India. We expect the head of the institution to be not only be conscious and aware of the situations in the cities and the metropolitan towns, but also be conscious about the rural India. And I must say that I come from Northeast, and Justice Bhushan Gavai has made it a point to travel extensively and in places where very few chief justices have had occasion to visit. So he has gathered first-hand idea about what India and rural India and remote India is all about. And for him, these are not just expressions of or words, but he has actually experienced during his visits. Particularly, I am aware of his visits to all nooks and corners of Northeast. So therefore, I would feel that he will also bring in his first-hand experience while visiting the various parts of this country, and also as a person who is professing Buddhism. It is not a fad for him. His father, in fact, I was very happy to learn that his father had converted to Buddhism during the time when Dr. Ambedkar had himself had converted to Buddhism and had encouraged others. So he also bring in an element which are universal truth in the philosophies of Buddhism, of respecting and wishing for peace for everybody. And I'm sure that Justice Bhushan Gavai would also bring in elements of his own religion, at least the teachings of his religion, into his workmanship as a Chief Justice of the country. I really wish him all the very best in the decisions that he will take for the betterment of the institution of judiciary in India.
Thank you for sharing your suggestions for Justice Bhushan Gavai with all of us. I'll go to Senior Advocate Sanjay Jain for his suggestion for Justice Bhushan Gavai.
I join His Lordship in the observation to the effect that scholarship of Justice Gavai is par excellence. His experience as a person in interacting with the masses and his ability to convert that experience into action through his judgments has been extraordinary and remarkable. We all look forward to His Lordship, though one view is this, that he has only 5 to 6 months at his disposal. But where there is a will, there is a way, and His Lordship is a very dynamic person, extremely focused. And I am quite sure about it. I have no doubt about it that he would look into at least those areas where the common man, who is the ultimate consumer of justice, is being affected. His Lordship Justice Roy spoke about the huge vacancy in the high courts. Let's visualize it this way. If there is a vacancy in Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, it is immediately fulfilled. I mean, it is filled up. Within 6 months, elections take place in Lok Sabha. If there is a vacancy, or if there is any vacancy in the Legislative Assembly, it is filled up. But when it comes to the vacancies in the judiciary, which is supposed to perform a balancing act in the body polity of this country, there is a complete negligence or casual approach about it, which is something which needs to be looked into. And I'm sure His Lordship will, through his administrative actions and some judicial orders, will pave way. And this aspect is taken care of for all times to come. And especially if you see we speak about socialism. Socialist is part of our preamble. Now, what good is socialism if the ultimate common man, the last man on the street, who is fighting a litigation in the remotest corner of this country, is not able to get his matter heard for want of appointment of a judge, or he is not able to get a matter heard for want of legal aid. So I am sure that His Lordship will ensure that the legal aid has a wider overreach, and it reaches actually to the needy person in the most remote corner of this country. And he will also ensure that in the states, the subordinate judiciary is much more vibrant and functional. The judges do attend the court in time, and they do deliver the judgments in time. These are the aspects which need to be inculcated, because some of these judges eventually come to the constitutional courts also by virtue of promotional avenues. So that aspect, I'm very sure that His Lordship will take care of. Other aspect is that I was reading the preamble again, and I found that the fourth objective in the preamble is fraternity. Now, Dr. Ambedkar was instrumental in getting fraternity included in the preamble, though the preamble as it stands is not entirely that of Dr. Ambedkar's wish, but fraternity he was able to get included into the preamble. And it is such a brilliant expression, because it reflects that despite the variations or diversions in this country, there has to be oneness at particular limit, where all the countrymen can identify themselves as Indian, and there is a fraternal feeling. But traditionally, it has been found that this particular expression has not been found to be good enough for constitutional interpretation. The constitutional experts, some writers have said so. So I would believe that such an important expression in the Constitution, which is one of the objectives in the preamble, will be infused or given life by Justice Gavai, because this particular expression of Dr. Ambedkar has remained ignored like a country cousin all this while. And with the new Chief Justice coming, I would believe that this aspect of fraternity will be used as a tool of interpretation, especially in the social restructuring matters. His Lordship has, Justice Roy has spoken about Justice Gavai going for sub-classification of the backward classes. This shows his ability and his fondness for greater inclusiveness. Now, this greater inclusiveness has to be seen from the prism of fraternity. So this ignored aspect, I believe that will be given some kind of attention in Justice Gavai's time as a Chief Justice of this country. And apart from that, I believe that he is a people's man. He's so unassuming, and he is so natural in whatever he does, that it looks like an effortless action, whether he's judging sitting on the bench, or he's delivering a speech or in a seminar, or he's interacting with us outside the bench. So his overall, I would say, this charisma is something which can create a magic between all the stakeholders of the judicial system, which includes the executive, legislature, and more importantly, the people of India.
Thank you for your suggestions, for Justice Bhushan Gavai. Very interesting point on the Lok Sabha observation you made. I think we should do more on that. I'll go to Advocate Sri Venkatesh for his suggestions for Justice Bhushan Gavai as Chief Justice of India.
And again, like I said earlier, I'm the least qualified person to give suggestions. But since we are doing this, if I had the tenure of few months as Justice Gavai has, my request to him would be to first and foremost try and reinstate the whole mentioning process. This used to work prior to pandemic quite well. It actually permits litigants to highlight urgent reliefs and unforeseen developments, which has somewhat gone missing in the procedure that we follow now, which is through email, and then it waits for its ratification by the concerned department. So therefore, a transparent protocol of mentioning will only strengthen the litigant access and procedural equity. I mean, that's the first thing I thought perhaps this could be done. The second suggestion, if I could make to Justice Gavai, I would definitely say that Justice Sanjeev Khanna has, of course, given more weightage to disposal of these non-miscellaneous matters over the last 6 months, and that has seen a lot of matters being disposed of at admission stage. But perhaps the regular matters have taken a bit of a backseat because they're only heard on one day. So one suggestion again perhaps would be that subject to, of course, the respective honorable judges board permitting that miscellaneous hearings could happen on Monday and Friday as they do in the forenoon. And in the second half, perhaps if these NMD matters, the ones which require disposal at final hearing stage, they could be taken up. And the rest of the days could be dedicated to barring those 8 or 10 miscellaneous matters, which are bail matters or perhaps transfer matters. Barring those, the rest of the day could be perhaps spent in deciding regular matters, because regular appeals are also languishing quite a few in number, and we are still I have 2013 2014 appeals pending which require adjudication even in 2025. And third, and I think one request from the litigants against side is that if Justice Gavai could standardize courts following the published cause list. I think Mr. Jain referred to this in his opening remarks, is that this system of having a cause list published the evening before is what enables all of us to prepare and approach the different courtrooms in a systematic manner. If that is maintained, then perhaps all lawyers would be more than available to argue their cases on time. Sometimes the numbers getting added early in the morning on the ticker or through a supplementary list, it puts everything off schedule. So therefore, if that could be standardized, that would be one suggestion that I would give Justice Gavai. And lastly, because the Honorable Supreme Court, in addition to exercising power under SLP jurisdiction or under writ jurisdiction, is also a second appellate court for many specialized tribunals. Where issues of competition, insolvency, electricity, all these complex appeals are arising out of these tribunals, and there effectively the second appeal lies before the Honorable Supreme Court. So perhaps Justice Gavai, if I could give him one suggestion, I would request that if you could constitute benches. I believe Justice Sikri used to head a tax bench for the largest number of months altogether, because all tax matters would go before him. So right now we do have demarcation of coding in terms of these specialized tribunals, but those courts are also marked certain non-tribunal related matters. So I think the pendency is quite huge from these sectors. So perhaps if a specialized tribunal could be created for arbitration appeals, for electricity appeals, all these forums, because ultimately our economy and our polity is dependent upon effective adjudication of these complex commercial matters. So if this could be dedicated to 2 or 3 courtrooms which sit and only decide this, that would be one suggestion that I could give to Justice Gavai. And lastly, one thing I found was that with the advent of technology and artificial intelligence, our Supreme Court published a memo which comes before the hearing is only capturing the basic details of the forum in which the SLP is arising therefrom. I mean, and nothing more. Perhaps if that memo could be expanded to other issues such as substantial question of law involved in the SLP or the civil appeal, and whether that issue is pending before the Honorable Supreme Court and other bench, whether a view has been taken or not. If these aspects could, with the help of AI, could be added, I mean, this of course will take a longer duration in terms of implementation, because as Justice Roy said that whatever decision Justice Gavai takes in the next 6 months would also have to be followed through by the successive Honorable Chief Justices. So perhaps if we could use that opportunity of expanding the scope of information that is usually available in the memo, then perhaps the honorable judges will also have that assistance as is required during admission hearings, and litigants who are unable to actually convey to the honorable court that this is the question of law involved, they would also get the benefit of that memo, which sometimes, this all gets lost because of the lack of advocacy in terms of the gentleman who's presenting your case. These are 4 or 5 suggestions that I could think of, which I could suggest to Honorable Justice Gavai to perhaps implement in his tenure in times to come.
Thank you for making those a few suggestions. Of course, I think they would be taken note of, and some of those would be in all likelihood implemented. We're almost out of time, so our last 10 seconds each on wishing him well for his tenure. Justice Roy, your wishes for Justice Bhushan Gavai.
Well, Tarun, I would firstly request Justice Gavai to take his colleagues, because I seen him functioning as a member of the collegium. He had enjoyed very good relationship with Justice Suryakant and also Justice Vikrant, who are to follow, and also Sister Nagaratna, who is going to be the first women Chief Justice of the country after them. So I'm sure he will take his colleagues, incoming Chief Justices, into confidence. And finally, I would just wish him Namo Buddhayam. That is, I would wish him that let him have respect and reverence that as a Chief Justice, I'm sure he deserves by virtue of what he has done in the past. And I'm sure that he will earn also in the next 6 months as the Chief Justice of the country.
Thank you so much for sharing that special wish for Justice Bhushan Gavai. Senior Advocate Sanjay Jain, your wishes for Justice Bhushan Gavai.
I believe that he's such a nice person that nobody will strike a discordant note with him. So with that advantage, he can work wonders.
Thank you. Advocate Sri Venkatesh, your wishes for Justice Bhushan Gavai.
I wish him all the prosperity in his tenure, and I can only request and make a wish to the universe at large that as affable as he is in court number 2, he should remain in court number 1. That's the only thing that I can.
Thank you for that warm wishes for Justice Bhushan Gavai. In addition to the suggestions, the observations that the esteemed panel has made, I would like to thank Justice Rishikesh Roy, Senior Advocate Sanjay Jain, Advocate Sri Venkatesh for taking out time for this really special show on Justice Bhushan Gavai. Appreciate your joining us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.